Okay, so I thought I would talk about my last four big hikes, all of which have been Ptarmigan Ridge hikes. And you may wonder, why would someone hike the same hike over and over again during the summer? Uh, the parking lot at Artist Point, which is somewhat about 5,000 feet or so, is only open from the end of June, first week of July, to whenever they clear the snow. So when the first snow starts again in uh, September or October. Um, and Ptarmigan Ridge gives you incredible views of both Shuxon and Mount Baker simultaneously. Turn to your back or turn to your left. There's Shuxon covered in glaciers. Turn to your left, turn to your right. There's Mount Baker covered in glaciers. Um, on a clear day, the trail from the Artist Point parking lot to the foot of Mount Baker, Camp Kaiser, or the Portals, it's called, uh, gives you spectacular views of not just those two glacial volcanoes, but uh, much of the Northern Cascades um, and much of the border peaks between America and Canada. And it's possible it's one of the most beautiful hikes in North America. It's very popular. If you're going to hike it on a weekend, you need to get there early. And on something like this last Saturday of a Labor Day weekend, uh, there is no shortage of people on the trail. Uh, all different types of hikers on the trail. Some with ski boots and those big broad skis, some with backpacks for at least one night, maybe a multi-overnight stay, uh, and many who are just day hikers like me, a few who are trail runners, uh, something I always find very impressive since that trail is littered with rock and has, at least in June and July, and even into the early part of August, snow crossings. Uh, anyway, I'm 61. I've been long COVID since the very start of the pandemic. Um, and that hike and most of my big hikes into the Northern Cascades will exhaust me. It takes me a day or two to recover. It's the kind of thing where even though I pack quite a bit of water and food, I might be 4 or 5 pounds lighter the next morning when I put myself on a scale. So it's a big deal for me to make that hike. Anything over 25,000 steps is going to give me a kind of empty and hollow feeling the day after. Um, and the portals and back, the East Peak and back, which was probably my biggest long hike so far, was a 38,000 step day, about 15 miles, um, and at least a couple thousand feet of elevation climb, and the same in terms of descent. But since it's up and down and up and down, I think my watch showed me over 200 10-foot floors in terms of elevation. Um, but I wouldn't trade my experiences on Ptarmigan Ridge for anything. It truly is a beautiful place to hike and a beautiful experience, even alone or even with many other people. Everywhere you look is some kind of picturesque, frameable view of the mountains, of the glaciers. Um, and the trail itself has lots of beauty in its rock formations and its snow melt, uh, in its thin ribbon of trail, which leads you to edge of the world type hiking. So I hope you enjoy all four of these films I've made of my Ptarmigan Ridge hikes. Um, I have a couple smaller films of uh, greater yellow legs, which is a shorebird that I saw picking out uh, dinner amidst the ice and snow melt at 5,000 feet, and another shorter film of a ptarmigan, which is a type of grouse uh, that inhabits high elevations in the northern hemisphere, uh, for which the Ptarmigan Ridge is the namesake. So anyway, I love taking these long hikes, and I love disappearing into the wilderness. Um, I'm not quite sure how much more training or how many more vitamins or what secret sauce I'm going to have to come up with that will allow me to do these hikes um, and not come home feeling absolutely exhausted. It is true it's a bit of a drive to get to Artist Point and Bakerview, and with the um, detour this summer, you spend at least a couple hours or more on the road. Uh, and it is true that Baker can give you challenging conditions, even in summertime. It can give you heat, it can give you smoke if there are fires, and uh, if you're on the shoulders in late July or early October, it can give you cold. So these aren't anything people who hike aren't used to. Uh, but the difference between 18 and 40 is one thing. The difference between 40 and 60 years of age is another. And I find that the older I get, the more thoughtful, the more aware of my own mortality, the slower I am. I'm not really into racing up and down the hillsides, although I do have moments when I like to go a pace. I'm really into framing those moments with my camera, with my cell phone, where I have some transcendent feeling of beauty and clarity. And I want the people that I make these films for, mostly myself, to be able to feel that moment again. And Ptarmigan Ridge is an excellent place to have many of those moments uh, on any single hike. Thank you for watching my channel.